Ladies and gentlemen, before we enter to the session, let's enjoy the dance performance from Mrs. Pupung. Mrs. Pupung, time is yours. to Mrs. Hannah and Arteningsi, Mr. Will, and Mrs. Liu. Please take a seat that has been provided. Good afternoon, Honorable Mrs. Hani Kurbatin Arteningsi SPD, as the headmaster of SMA Negeri Singosari. Honorable Mr. Will and Mrs. Yusi Liu as the speakers, and my beloved friend in happiness. We welcome you to Sman Negeri. Tidak Santika Aji. Mr. Will and Mrs. Yusi, we are happy to share with you that our school slogan is Tidak Santika Aji, which means we will try to be the best. Good afternoon. First of all, let us pray and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of His blessing and mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here with healthy donation in the students' interaction program. Second, let us pray and pray to our beloved Prophet Muhammad SAW, who have brought us to the path of light and left the darkness in this life. Ladies and gentlemen, on this nice occasion, let us, as the master of ceremony, I am Shaula and I am Jihan, to deliver the structure of the event today in student interactive forum with native speakers. First is opening. Second, the speech from Mrs. Hani Kurbatin SPD as headmaster of Sman 1 Singosari. Third is speeches from Mr. Will and Mrs. Liu. Then the question and answer session, and the last one is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's open this event by saying Basmalah. Now we invite Mrs. Hani Kurbatin SPD to give a first speech. To Mrs. Hani Kurbatin SPD, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, all teachers and students. Good morning, Yusi and Will from California. Welcome to our school. I am so honored to have opportunity to welcome you to here in Senior High School in Singosari. Yusi and Will, on this occasion, I would like to convey that your visit will provide an opportunity for students to gain experience community directly with native speakers. Maybe you can share experience about daily life in California and so on. And also today will give us the opportunity to introduce our school's culture custom, our habituation, teaching learning, including they are being taught by the art teacher, their traditional dance, playing gamelan and making batik craft and so on. But because currently students are taking final semester exam, so not all students can welcome you advance. So you see and will, hopefully we can present something that can give a good impression to you with their career. We hope you can enjoy your visit. Once again, thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much for your coming to our school. Hopefully, in the future there will be opportunities to meet again, perhaps at different events. Stay in touch. Thank you, thank you. Anak-anak, terima kasih banyak. Kalian sudah hari ini semua dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Begitu juga Bapak Ibu Guru SMA Negeri 1 Singosari. Mari kali ini kita kedatangan tamu Yusi dan Will, di mana beliau adalah suami istri. Dia juga sebagai ahli IT, Yusi sedangkan Will adalah penulis. Jadi ya apa aja diceritakan, makanya kalian berbaik-baiklah sehingga biar ceritanya baik. Anak-anak, nanti hari ini silakan kalian diskusi apa saja yang kalian tanyakan. Mungkin entah kebiasaan di sana bagaimana, kemudian harus berharap ya mungkin kalian punya spirit gitu ya, sehingga kalian kepingin bagaimana biar belajar yang lebih baik karena beliau ini orang tuanya adalah para profesor, jadi memang semua di bidang pendidikan, sehingga mereka adalah putra putri orang-orang yang hebat, sehingga perlu kalian contoh apa spiritnya, apa semangatnya gitu ya, sehingga apa saja yang bisa kalian tanyakan sekarang, jangan sampai kalian malu-malu atau nggak ada. Dan karena sudah, apalagi English Club itu semuanya berani, apalagi tentornya luar biasa, sehingga semua adalah pemberani, kemudian ingin banyak tahu, itulah yang harus kalian gali. Jadi itu anak-anak, mari hari ini kita kedatangan native speaker, bisa diskusi tentang apa saja, bisa yang benar-benar untuk kita. Kurang lebih mohon maaf, saya akhiri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks to Mrs. Hani in her speech. Now we come into the main point, that is students' interaction forms will be delivered by Mr. Bill and Mrs. Yuseliu. Time and please are welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Will, and I am so happy to be here today to talk with you. I'm so excited to see all of your smiling faces here in front of me. We are here today to learn more about Indonesian high school and high school experience. We are also here today to talk a little bit about life as a high schooler in the United States. But first, I also want to say thank you to the dance teacher for such a wonderful dance performance. Could we give her a round of applause? It was very graceful, and I had never seen anything like it. So thank you so much. I grew up in a city in the middle of the United States, a small city, a little bit like Malang. Malang is near the middle of Java. My hometown, Cleveland, Ohio, is in the middle of the United States. For high school, am I speaking slow enough? Yes. Good. If I speak too fast, go like this, and I'll slow down. Okay. I went to high school in the northeast of the United States. I went to a boarding school. So I lived at school, like I think some of you do here. In the northeast of the US, the weather was very different than here in Malang. It was much colder. In the winter, there would be 3 feet or 6 feet of snow on the ground, or 1 or 2 meters of snow on the ground. So when we walked through a lot of snow to class. The weather is much nicer here. Yes. When I was in high school, I loved English and literature and philosophy. I did not like math. Math was very hard for me. But it's still important to work hard in the classes that you don't like. So I took a class that combined English, history, and philosophy together, and we called it humanities, and that was my favorite class. I also had participated in special clubs after school. So I participated in our newspaper. We had a newspaper and I wrote articles for that newspaper. We also had a debate team where we debated against other schools, and I participated in that as well. I also did sports. I played basketball and baseball for our school. And so those are some of the things that I enjoyed doing in high school. If I think back to when I was in high school, here are the things that I was really thinking about a lot. So in high school, I wanted to do well in my classes. I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to do well in my extracurricular activities. I wanted to get into a good college. And I wanted to spend time with my friends and have fun. And that's also important. In high school, to have fun with friends, we like to do things like listen to music, play board games, play computer games, eat ice cream. That was very fun. And as we like to say in English, hang out. So yeah, we spent a lot of time hanging out in high school. Also a lot of time studying. Both are important. So I also I look forward to answering your questions about life in the US. I also want to encourage you to study very hard in your English class, because English is a very important skill in our world. English is the language of international travel. When you travel to other countries, you can speak English. English is the language of international business. So if you want to work in other countries or work with people from the United States or many other countries, English is very important. And so I'm so glad that all of you are part of this special English club. And I want to encourage you to study hard and learn English so we can have more opportunities to spend time together, to talk and to hang out.
All right. Hi, everyone. How are you? Wow, not very good. How are you? You're fine. Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. So my name is Yusi. As you can tell, probably it is not a traditional American name because I am Chinese. I was born in Beijing, China, and when I was 11 years old, my mom and I immigrated to Canada. So I went to middle school and high school in the capital of Canada. Does anyone know which city that is? I'm here in Toronto. What are other guesses? Vancouver? Any other? Ottawa! I heard it! That's correct! Ottawa! Good job. Your geography is better than most Americans. Yes, so I was in high school in Ottawa. My experience being a middle schooler and also a high schooler in Canada was, it wasn't always easy because it was my first time experiencing the North America culture, and I come from such a different country. I didn't really speak much English when I first moved, so I learned a lot, but at the same time, I feel the importance of what Will was talking about, is to really have the confidence to speak the language and make friends. And I feel like that's something I learned a little bit later on in life, that I would encourage all of you to feel that confidence in yourself, to speak up, to make friends, and just don't be too afraid. Because what I've learned over time is most most teenagers, they just want to have fun, just want to hang out. You don't have to speak perfect English to hang out and have fun. One of the things that I love about my high school experience is actually dance. So I really love the dance performance. I learned how to dance hip hop by watching YouTube videos. So I went on YouTube and watched a lot of music videos of Taiwanese pop stars. And I just learned every move by slowing down the video. But now you have much more available resources. You can learn on TikTok, you can learn like so many different things that you can use. But what I also learned is with dance, it's also a form of communication. I didn't have to speak, but I could communicate my emotions. So it's actually really important to also value the arts in your life, whatever form of expression you find yourself enjoying. Is it painting? Is it singing? Is it dancing? Is it any other form of art to help yourself express feelings? That I found very useful for myself when I struggled with just that experience, that progress of learning English. I made a lot of friends through dance. so as you're learning and you're trying to adapt and integrate to a new culture, doing activities like dance, like doing sports, like what Will was mentioning, I played badminton in high school. Does anyone like badminton here? Badminton? Yeah, I loved playing badminton. I tried to compete on the school team, but I didn't make it. But I still like it. Yeah. And then also in high school, my favorite subjects to study were English. I love English literature. There was one year, I remember it, in 10th grade. We read a lot of books about women's experiences around the world. It was a really great class as we got to learn about, we read Madame Bovary. It's like about French women's experience, and then we read some literature about Russian women. Anna Karenina was the book that we read about women's experiences in Russia. And I just remember that year we had a lot of great discussions in class, and I just loved getting lost in the stories of these women. And also through that I learned about other cultures. And then the other class that I want to share that I enjoyed to my own surprise was physics. Actually, I took physics because my mom is an engineer, and growing up, she always told me, "Oh, you're not good at math." And I was like, "Oh, come on, Mom, can you be more encouraging?" So then I told her, "I will take the hardest science class to prove it to you that I can do it." So that's why I took physics. And it turned out to be a really fun, intellectual class for me. I did need to go to the teacher after school for tutoring hours because it was still a difficult subject, but I really enjoyed satisfying my curiosities about the world. Like how do things work? I think at your age you may be asking yourself a lot of questions. It's just like, why is the sky blue? Honestly, it's a good science question, and like what makes all of us the same or different? There's a lot of questions that's in your mind, and physics was my way of trying to answer some of these fundamental questions about how does the world work. And so I think one thing that I want to encourage all of you to keep alive inside of you is that curiosity about the world, your curiosity about life. All of the things that you find yourself wondering about, like those questions are kind of like a guiding light to you what your true interests are. Because from my own experience, studying becomes a lot less hard if it's something I'm really interested in. And also later in life, when you go to college and when you go to graduate school, when you go to work, if you do something that you really love and enjoy, it won't feel like work. Yeah, you will feel so alive doing that. And how do you know what makes you feel alive? I think to me, that is when you just naturally want to know more. It's your curiosity. So, yeah. Like, be curious, stay curious, and yeah, I'm very excited to see where your curiosity takes you. And hoping, yeah. And I'm happy to answer your questions as well. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks for the information and knowledge which have been given to us. May it be useful for us. And ladies and gentlemen, while the next one is question and answer session, for the audience who want to ask a question are invited. Just raise your hand and mention your name.
Oh, we're so excited to be here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Will and Mrs. Yushi. So I want to ask a question about Mrs. Yushi. You said that you were from Beijing, right? So how do you cope with a sudden change environment? My name is Raisa Azara. Thank you.
That's a really good question. There are things that helped me when I immigrated, but also there are things that I wish I had known that I didn't know back then. So I think what helped me when I moved from Beijing to Ottawa was still keeping in touch with my friends in China, because it helped me feel comfortable and familiar when everything else around me changed. Back then it was only email, so now you have a lot more tools. You can do video calls, for example. And I also felt that staying connected with some of my hobbies. So for example, I like to play badminton, so I continue to look for badminton classes and clubs at school. So that helped me feel more connected with something that I already know. So I think something, so knowing, like look for, because everything else has already changed, finding certain things that feel familiar was very helpful for me. And playing badminton is something that I was good at. So even though in class I sometimes felt kind of not very smart, because I would listen to a lecture and not really understand too much, but I knew over time I will get there. So I think doing some activities where I could feel proud of myself while I'm struggling and growing in other areas, that was very helpful. And then now that I'm much older now and I couldn't go back, I would tell myself that it's okay. Because I think I gave myself a very hard time. I wanted to do really well. I wanted to be seen as smart. I was afraid to ask questions, actually. And I would want to tell myself, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to not speak perfect English and still communicate with others. I remember people said I smiled a lot when I first moved. Smiling is great, because it's great. But at the same time, I also smiled a lot because I didn't know what to say. So, and it's okay, you can just smile and then people will just move on. But I think now I would tell myself, just say what's on my mind. It's okay. That's how I would improve faster. And also just always believe in yourself. One thing that I also want to encourage all of you, if you move abroad to study or to work, to live, to always be proud of where you come from. Your culture is so beautiful. We just watched such amazing dance performance, and we were very lucky to go to Tumbak Siwu yesterday. You have a lot of Tumbak Siwu. Your natural beauty, you can be proud of that. Your language, your food, your history. Because nothing, I truly believe the world is one large village, but being proud of your own heritage and your own culture will give you so much confidence, and that's how I feel right now. I feel so proud to have Chinese heritage in me. I love my language, I love my dance, like my country's dance, and that kind of confidence will help you connect with other people in America, in Canada, because people there are also very curious about you. Like, where do you come from? Like, what does your culture look like? Like, what do you like to do? So don't be shy about sharing your culture with them. That's something that I wish I had done more.
And you can ask us about anything you want. Anything you want. No, there are no silly questions.
Hello, this is Liu and Mr. Liu. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I ask, let me introduce myself. My name is Singosari. You can call me Novi. So, my question is, in Indonesia has a lot of historical places. One of which is beberapa temples in Yogyakarta. And what I want to know is, in California also has a historic temple like that, or is there a place that has historical value too? That's all my question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. One thing that, so we went to Borobudur in Yogyakarta just a few days ago, and we were very impressed with how beautiful and how dramatic it was. And it's so wonderful to be able to go to somewhere with such a long and rich history. The United States is a little bit different than Indonesia because we were not building temples there in the 10th century. So even the oldest churches and the oldest temples and the oldest buildings in the United States will be much, much younger than Borobudur. There are some churches in California that are from the Spanish time, when California was a Spanish territory. But they are they're still not that old. They're maybe 500 years old. They're not thousands of years old. So in general, our history in the United States is much more recent than some of your older temples in Indonesia. But like Lucy said, we're still very proud of that history. So, when we go see, for example, the town, Jamestown, is one of the first places that settlers came from Europe into the United States. And so that is still preserved and a place that school groups go to see what life was like back in the 1600s. So there are historical sites. They're just not as old. Now, what many people look in, specifically in California, what many people go to California to see is not
I've ever had yesterday. Yeah, so good.
How about traditional food or traditional specific food in California would be?
Sure. So California is very interesting because there are many different cultures that combine in California. So California has a Mexican influence because California was at one point part of Mexico. California has an Asian influence because many Chinese, Filipino, Korean, and other people in California. So their food is also there. And then there's also what you would think of as more sort of traditional American food as well. So everything mixes together. And so in California, there's lots of what we call fusion cuisine. So the combination of different foods coming together. So that's what.
Delicious, I think.
Sorry?
It will be delicious, I think.
Yes, yes, yes. And on our favorite Indonesian food, I grew up in Cleveland, and in Cleveland, there were no Indonesian restaurants. Not one. But there was
like when I was trying to cross the street, I watched the local people how they cross the street. They just hold out their hand and the traffic stops for them. I was like, wow, that's very cool. And there were like so many motorcycles. I know a lot of you can ride motorcycles. I think that's very cool. I've never learned how to ride a motorcycle. In America, that's considered very cool to ride a motorcycle.
Don't be shy.
Yes, don't be shy.
We don't fight.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dia. And my question is, how does school in USA invite the student to the classes? As you know, that the class division in Asian school, high school, and USA school are very different.
So I think one big difference that we've heard about in the U.S. high schools versus Indonesian high schools is most high schools in the U.S., most students take very similar classes. So it's very rare for there to be high schools focused on specific trades or to have students in high school choose specific focuses. Usually in the US, everybody takes the same classes until college. And then in college, people take different classes. So I think that's one big difference in the US versus Indonesia.
Yeah, I think that was the same in Canada. The only time when we kind of had different classes was when because I did the international baccalaureate program in Canada, and in each subject, like English or math or physics or history, had higher level and standard level. And I was able to do higher level math until 11th grade, and then I switched to standard level because it got too hard. So I think that was actually a choice that students had. Like we could choose, what level of class do we want to do? And we didn't specialize in science versus language until college. Because in college, if you're a humanities or English literature major, for example, you don't have many requirements actually, I don't think you have any requirement for math or science, and vice versa. If you choose to be a biology major, you won't have any history requirements in most colleges, right? It depends. Yeah.
As you know, in Indonesia, we have 16 subjects. At least we got 16.
16.
Wow. Subjects. In high school.
Really?
Yeah, so you must.
That is more subjects than in the US, I think, traditionally, yes.
What are the traditional lessons?
In the US, the traditional subjects are math, science, English, history, foreign languages, and those are, just five, maybe six. Wow. Very good.
Learn more.
I shouldn't say that the US is because there are so many subjects.
Yeah.
Wow.
You must study very hard to learn 16 subjects. I'm impressed.
Can you speak English?
Terima kasih.
Good morning, Mrs. and Mr. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sabila. I'm from University Brawijaya, and I want to ask for you, do you have any tips for speaking English fluency? Because considering that in Indonesia, English is still a foreign language for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So I think I have two tips. The first is don't be afraid to make mistakes. When you're learning a foreign language, so I myself, I learned Chinese, Mandarin Chinese. And one thing that helped me learn foreign languages is to go out there and speak. If you're afraid to make mistakes, it will be very hard to improve. Now that can feel very uncomfortable because we all like to feel like we know what we should say. But in order to improve, we need to make mistakes, be corrected, and then make more mistakes. And then be corrected, then make more mistakes. It's a process, and it's uncomfortable, but it's important. So that's tip number one. Make mistakes and learn. Tip number two, and I don't know if the teachers will like this or not, but watching movies and TV in English. So I think there's lots of movies and TV shows in English that you can access, which is wonderful. I know a lot of the people I met in China watch shows like Friends or Prison Break or other things to practice their English. So it's both a good way to practice English and it's fun.
I would just share one experience I had when I was learning English and when I truly felt, oh, wow, I've become more fluent than before was through Harry Potter. Because I already know everything that happens in Harry Potter from reading Chinese book. So when I read an English book, I could kind of already guess. Even if I didn't know every single word, I didn't know all the vocabulary in the book, I can follow. And through that process, I learned new words and I was really enjoying myself because I love the story. And then when you watch the movie, you learn more about how to actually say those words. And then now there are audible books. Do you listen to books? Because I actually love listening to books. And the Harry Potter one on Audible is read by a really good voice actor. So the Harry Potter, listening to Harry Potter is a really good way for me to pick up new vocabulary.
We can move to
Yes, yeah.
because we have no part to speak. Yeah, because all people say Indonesia. No one say English. Just we can go to school, in the club, they can speak English. But every day, daily life, they speak Indonesian. So they have no part to know place to practice that English every day. Right. Yeah. Practice. Yeah. Practice.
Yeah, we actually practice.
Yeah, practice. And practice speaking and having some feedback. I'm actually wondering about language learning apps. Because now you know AI is really smart. I do believe there are free apps that you can talk to it and then it can help you analyze like your analyze what you just spoke and then maybe but I don't know the exact name right now, but I believe it exists. Yeah.
The other thing, and there are some online platforms like iTalki and things where you can find people, partners to speak. Sometimes you have to pay, which might be hard, but those are some resources. The other thing I would say is high school language is part of a longer process. So, for example, when I learned Mandarin, I took it for 3 years in high school, 4 years in college, and then moved to China, and then lived there for 4 years. So it took me 11 years to speak good Chinese. And so this time is an important time for you because you're laying a foundation. But it's a journey. You're going after high school, in college, and in your work after college, your English can improve step by step. And so it's okay if your English is not perfect now. You just need to keep on improving and working and improving and working. Any else?
First of all, thanks for the time it takes. My name is Veronica. I want to ask some question. So many teenagers in our age, they still questioning if what they want in the future. And sometimes they're scared if they waste their time and have nothing. Same like me, I have a dream to get college in UC Berkeley, but sometimes I think that I'm scared to be failed. And maybe from all of you guys, if you have a response or solution for me. Thank you.
I think that's, first of all, congratulations on having that goal. Because I think the first step about achieving dreams is to know where your dream is. And sometimes that's actually the hardest part, is to be clear about what you want in life. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, but I find it very true for my own life. It says, shoot for the moon. Even if you fail, you land among the stars. So aim high, and through that process, you will get somewhere. Maybe, I think one thing maybe is being a little bit more flexible on how you define success and how you define failure. Maybe through that process of, for example, when I was applying to college I was in Canada, and I know I wanted to go to college in the United States. And specifically because I was in Ottawa, even though it's the capital, it is nothing like Jakarta. It is very quiet, very small, and so snowy. Like Will talked about 1 to 2 meters of snow. We had 2 to 3 meters of snow. Snow from October to May every year. So much snow. So I wanted to go somewhere else. Specifically, I wanted to go to New York City. So my dream school at the time in high school was Columbia University. I really wanted to go because they had a great curriculum on English literature in first year. But I only got waitlisted at Columbia, so I didn't get in, but I got into New York University. So I still ended up going to New York, and I met one of my most important life mentors at my college. So it didn't work out exactly how I wanted, and I would say I was a little bit disappointed for sure when I didn't get into Columbia, but looking back, I don't think it was a failure. I really felt it was meant to be that I met my mentor at a different school, and I think that's that's very true for so many things in my life. Like for the first job I had, I thought it was going to be finance, but then it turned out that I didn't really like finance, so then I ended up in consulting, which was a better fit for myself. So I think in general, I guess the idea I wanted to convey to you is because you have a great goal, you're going to work really hard towards it, it's going to lead you somewhere. Even if it's not exactly what you think it is. But you might just get there actually. So who knows? I believe in you. So just try and you'll be surprised at how far your effort takes you.
And I would just add that this feeling that you're feeling, this having a high goal and being a little bit afraid of it, it doesn't just happen in school. So this happens for the rest of life. that you try and set goals and you try and achieve them, and sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're scary. So I think this is a very normal feeling to have. I think when it specifically comes to college, UC Berkeley is a very good school, so congratulations on shooting for that school. In the US, when students apply for college, they are encouraged to look at a range of schools. So when I applied to college, I chose some schools that were my stretch goals, like say Harvard or Princeton, right? Some that were in the middle, and some that were sort of safety schools that were easier to get into. That way, if you have a range, if you have good backups, no matter where you end up in a good place. So I think that's another thing to think of when you're looking at applying to colleges. But I hope very much that you can achieve your dream of studying in the US and studying at UC Berkeley.
I just want to share something a little bit more general about college. I found that for myself, when I was applying to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to study. So my goal wasn't really my own self-interest, guided by my self-interest, was guided by other people's voices. Like, oh, people told me these schools are good, so I should apply to them. But when I applied to graduate school for my master's, at that time, I understood myself a lot more. I knew my interests. So when it came to that application process, it was much easier for me actually, because I knew what to write in the essays. Like, this is why I want to go there. And sometimes I think for those people who got the best experiences out of college, it's not because they went to the highest ranking college. It's because they knew what they really wanted, their interests, and they found a good match for what they wanted to do. So I think in this process, as you're going through the application process, you're probably going to reflect a lot on who are you, where do you come from, what do you want to do, what are your interests. I would just encourage you to be honest with yourself about what those answers are, and try to choose schools that can really satisfy your interests and your curiosities.
Hello, Miss and Mister. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll ask you something. America is the broad continent. Can you tell us more about the difference among North America, US, and South America, whether in terms of people, language, or culture? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So we recently actually visited South America for the first time earlier this year. We traveled to Chile and Argentina and Brazil. So your question is very timely for us. One of the big differences between the United States and Canada, and then Mexico and Central America and South America, is language. So the United States and Canada predominantly speak English, and then in the other countries south of us, it's predominantly Spanish. And now there are parts of the United States, like California, that originally, and Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, that were part of Mexico and did speak Spanish before. But that's one big difference in language, English versus Spanish. Another difference is in colonial history. So the United States became independent from Great Britain much earlier than a lot of the South American and Central American countries. So many of the South American countries and Mexico became independent only in the 19th century or sometimes even the 20th century. So the United States has had much more time as an independent country to develop our political and societal structures on our own. So I think that's also a difference. But I think there are also many similarities. There are strong democratic nations in both North and South America. So there are both differences and similarities, but those are some of the differences.
Okay, we will give one more chance to ask question.
Hello. I want to ask you, what is your favorite destination in America?
That's a very good question, and I will give you two answers. So I'm in my early 30s now, and when I was more your age / in my 20s, my favorite place in America was New York City because it had. When you talk about culture, New York City to me, because I was there between the age of 18 and 23, it had the world part of it. Because you meet people on the street, they could be speaking Spanish, French, English, Chinese, Korean, Filipino, just everything, languages I don't know. And you can find food from all over the world. So that to me was very exciting, and I loved feeling, even though it's a huge city, somehow it felt I felt very much at home there. But now that I'm older, I like places that have more natural beauty. So in America, I love Hawaii. It's actually, I think, the climate is very similar to Indonesia. And with all the palm trees, the coconuts, the beautiful ocean, the volcanoes. So that's my answer for my 30s.
So I think UC stole my answer too. I also very much love Hawaii for its natural beauty and the beaches. I love to swim in the ocean, and so it's very nice to do that in Hawaii. But I think for me, my other favorite place in the U.S. is home. So where I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's where my family is, and some of my friends from elementary school, and so home is always a special place. Thank you for your question.
How do you love the school so you can come up with
Wow. I feel so honored to be here. One of my friends in your city, Alexandra, she was friends. She's friends with Tuhani, and so when I told her, "Hi, I'm coming to Indonesia," Alexandra said, "You must come to Malang, and I will introduce you to Tuhani," and that's how it all started. So
I think my school is very to you.
yes, I can tell it feels like family.
Thank you for all of your questions. We really love the chance to get to speak with you. And if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to come up to us afterwards and chat.
This is the end of question and answer session. Thanks to the audience that had participated actively. And Ladies and gentlemen, finally we get to the last session in this event that is closing. Let's close this event by saying Hamdalah.
Okay, my student will thank you. Okay, my student will thank you. Oh, I think it's
Instagram. I have email, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
You say that language is process, so my student must speak up, and hope that they can continue. So please give me email or yes, sure.
We can share our email and other contact information for anybody who wants to stay in touch.
So my student can contact you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
As the master of ceremony, thanks to Mr. Will and Mrs. Yusi, as a speaker, Mrs. Hanik Propatan SPD, and all students. Before we end this event, we would like to commemorate this occasion by taking a picture together.
Wow, it smells so nice.
This is real probably.
That is so feeling. It's beautiful.
You can find it
Natural. Thank you. Thank you for making this. Oh, this one. No miss. No.
1, 2, 3.
Hello guys. Hai. Maju, mepet sana. Yuk, yuk. Hurry up.
Let us know if you come. Yeah, we will welcome you.
Ya, ada yang di atas. Laki-lakinya kan sedikit, laki-lakinya di atas.
Laki-lakinya sedikit, ya perempuannya di atas. Biar ada bannernya. Nanti kita di bawah. Terus sebelah kiri Mbak. Sampai belakang kanan kurang boy. Kanan kiri kurang.
Ada sini. Senyum, smile, mau smile. Oke. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, keren.
Come please. 1, 2, 3. Rocket please. 1,
Roket. Ya, oke.
2, 3. Sarangi. 2, 3. Sekali lagi menghadap ke 1, dua. Thank you.
Cukup ya?